Well, the internet got knocked down, so I'm going to do this one just to say you're encouraging me on the political minute more. You know, it's like someone who keeps writing their congressman once a week, and it's the Anthony Dufresne situation. They don't respond to him, don't do anything else. A week later, something else, maybe, 14 years. It's like at least he knew they heard him. So it only took one letter once a week for 7 years. He'll send two. Now, just in saying everything, being fair and honest to everybody, um, getting off of everything here with it. Um, Doing with a real issue here. And this guy I've known for a while. I've cleaned his garden, everything else. He has this family member that he says is divorced from him under, weird USA BS, and therefore he can't make him tell the truth about an incident. Well, anyway, in a personal address to local, I guess, military celebrity, Rear Admiral Barry Sullivan. I had one earlier where it's like I kept repeating super soldiers and everything else. In and of itself, due to the way that the United States has gone against the Nazis and their use of people and collection of DNA from different individuals that had DNA traits. Under the wordings of the Security Council, it is illegal for a USA person to take any DNA from a person without explicit situations for their DNA to be used and explained to them specifically how. And as the such of creating super soldiers like the Axis powers did, we cannot in any way, shape, or form take DNA from different individuals, especially races that we say are families that are on the way out. We like using the term families because it's like that family just couldn't stay here. And they're gone, whatever it is, but we're going to salvage this DNA to let them stay underwater for 10 minutes without breathing apparatuses. And say we're going to take first super, like, sports player or celebrity that you can think of, that you personally can think of if you ever listen to this, whether you're Real Admiral Sullivan or not. And you can splice up that DNA into them because, they're pretty as a picture and might be your all's group. And keep putting that in there and create super soldiers from what is celebrity pretty. I'm just going to be picking on him because he's always in there. They're not going to do it to the Facebook guy because he only has a face that his wife and mother could love. I mean, let's just put it this way. He's not going to be on GQ10, whatever it is, for it. And that could be just as mean and horrible and everything else. But due to the nature of it, we cannot make super soldiers like that. You're supposed to take the people that have that natural situation and have them fully develop it through the power of their own will, their own need to be better and better themselves to become something else better. And if they attract other people with those genes to them, eventually those genes will be expressed, even if there are other genes, such as saying being able to run very good. So you can have someone who's a triathlon athlete and train on a tricycle or a bicycle or something. Now, the United States cannot in any way take these situations, splice them together, and say, well, it is a Wolverine when it's not Wolverine, like in the last X-23 movie out there with Old Man Logan or Old Man Wolverine. The USA physically, under its Security Council situations, can't do that. I know under Black Ops they say that they can, but you cannot go out there and be like, looking at you, if I removed that from you, you would be very sucky, which is a similar conversation that we've had. I'm paraphrasing a lot here. and you sucking and being like the regular people in the area, what we think the regular people in the area should be expressed as, is good. And if we left you here able to breed with the local people, you would breed them up too much to possibly be something that we wouldn't be expecting or thinking of. And someone like you, we just don't really like whenever you're around us. I can be like, there's a lot of fuzzy math with you, and 102 pounds of uranium eggs missing somewhere. And do we still call them dinosaur eggs? And meetings with Hillary Clinton and a couple of her side avenue enforcers that they don't really realize aren't USA citizens, that's been the main advisors to the President of the United States and the muscles behind it for like the last since Gerald Ford. Now, in saying some of this, with everything, why would there ever be anyone having a conversation with any of this? I don't know. Why would you be bringing up constantly with people in elementary school and everything else over whenever you're there, and then it's like you're no longer allowed to come to elementary schools? The United States cannot make super soldiers because the United States is a government of the people, by the people, for the people. That anybody can be a soldier and through that which is their own sheer will make themselves into whatever it is that's possible of it in the United States. People hate saying that. There has to be a certain genetic situation, a certain genetic thing. No. People that are of a certain ability, say there are X-Men powers out there, for whatever you want to say. They are not something to be taken, harvested, and due to the national draft can be kept in a form of stasis enslavement or stasis cryo until they are brought out, and through that being put in there for whatever it is, be left alone until then. People aren't someone that can be put on tap through that which is the military system. The quoting of that still goes back to your involvement with the Egyptian Mussolini outpost. And they just think that you're a fat German. And everything else that it's always came up with. Now, under this with everything, I just have to say, honestly, I'm not really sure if there is anything that can be done or would be done over that. I mean, there's hundreds of other people, especially with your side project of ADT and everything else that you run around, and the prostitution you do with the Metcalf family and everything, especially back in the 80s, and I do mean child prostitution, Rear Admiral, and other stuff with whatever, because you can't really physically divorce somebody in your family just to be like you're still able to not compel them to testify or whatever it is, and then they can always lie about everything else that's certified with people around there going, this is interesting watching the Nazi religion and its way that it works, and you think you're not in a petri dish. And in case there's a civil war and he had to be one of our operatives that was just lost a long time ago, because how else could he speak such good English as Hillary would say out on Magnolia when she'd have her meetings with you, because nothing ever happens in the black side of town, when basically since about 1971, I think every single thing was happening in the black side of town probably for the next 150 years. People just ain't going to realize it. Moving on from there, not really sure what else you're going to say. There's not really any of the situations you've ever gone on with, or even just taking blood of people and having them killed off and then later recloned from their DNA biopsy tissue or something else that's held around in order to be used later for just some sort of like master key genetic race or whatever it is. I mean, it was stuff that you were trying to do with trying to reawaken the powers of Anubis and other stuff out there with it. And the genetic experiments that you did out there through there underneath the tutelage of Charlie Zellers. So, as far as if we're going to be busting chops at people here in the whatever it is, I mean, you can't run one single part of this country without having the Nazis completely involved in it, completely training everybody and be like, well, that's how we were able to beat you. And it's like this, the convolutedness back and forth between everything over what you say every day of the week with everything, and I know you froze it right here. I'm blaming you today for it. Saying, I'm scared of the light of Jesus over here beside me or something else because of bad lighting. But I just got to say, you need to take some responsibility for all your stuff in World War II if we're going to say that Donald Trump was anywhere responsible for people who didn't do anything that he said about a letter of everything. It's like, well, they would all be my fired employees that still think they love me or I love them in some way. Anyway, there's my whole thing over super soldiers. I mean, it's illegal because it's an act used by the enemy against us. It is an act of total apprehension against creation. It is an act of that which is similar to what the Founding Fathers' lineages were put through in genetic torture and manipulation to get them to come out the way that they were whenever they finally were returned to their people back over here, and everything. And honestly, with how you can say that Donald Trump, just like how you can say Joe Biden and Hillary Rodham Clinton were responsible and selected people for sacrifice around the nation for individual black martyrs to be hunted down and killed for the furtherment of the Democratic Party. It's like listening to you all World War II Axis powers people read a book in the USA and trying to explain it back to us, going, well, you just saw them and you saw they were the coolest and you wanted to be them. When even Rome Vatican City still keeps those records of their capture, slavery, and everything else. And they just hate the fact that they were able to keep up their own tribalistic things and say, this is why we're tribalistically different, no matter how much they tried breaking them to whatever, and why they really opened up Mussolini to figure out how to go to war and destroy North America. The Super Soldier program will never be anything like it was with you and your genetics for trying to get the powers of the ancient Egyptians that were supposedly ruled by Ishmael and Esau and everybody else back at the time, going with the Nazi doctrine for everything, since the Jews controlled the entire world, and Ishmael turned into Anubis, and there's another big one that Esau turned into. I think it was Horus, and then they had their sisters and stuff, and it went on about the kids with Hagar and everything, and the daughters they had, and certain other things out there, and then they fell apart whenever whatever it was, and through enslavement or whatever it is, or bringing in the others, and they all had the abilities to change into partial animals and stuff like that, and had these things with communion and everything that they did. So then they got enslaved, had everybody killed that could do that. And then you said that by doing the weird rituals and then hitting each other with Wi-Fi and stuff in the brain and everything, that would reawaken the parts of them, because people would become incessantly enraged when you hit certain areas, like hitting a very painful pain part on a person. So, but you just need to splice the DNA together and use this stuff, and it can be put into the food. And it's just the ambrosia, or else whatever it is, and it's the magical fruit that's everywhere. So it has to be grass or grain. So, Rome again. But whatever it is with you all is absolutely ridiculous. So I don't believe that, since that's under outlawment by actions of a foreign national power against USA citizens, that anything close to what you're talking about for the last 40 years with super soldiers and how the gifts of it could not be left in everyday commoner people's hands, which means eventually when it reaches the 1%, you'll have a genetic capsule carrier to take it back to Rome or another country, through where it's going to take all that from, like how certain things were done with the brain over in Russia, then to here, certain things are done with, I guess you would say, will, stamina, and then go over to China with kinesiology and stuff, and then it'll bounce around Europe until it goes into Rome, and your super soldiers will be reborn as they're all carried around in a biological entity, kind of like Johnny Mnemonic. That was one of the big things you always used to use, was code around there walking and talking with people, was mnemonics. They're all mnemonics because you said they didn't know anything and mum's the word, and other stuff like that, making fun of everybody else. And then you're all pissed off about how they made that movie, which is really good because it's for 2021 this year. But anyway, till the internet comes back on, see you later. Bye.